And I remember one time I put the lock on the other side of the door.
Oh.
And then I realized I've basically caged my child. But that's how desperate I was.
I know. Well, hi there, and welcome to another episode of The Family Business with the Alessis, where we love to talk about stuff we can't always talk about on Sundays. But today, I have a special guest, a very special guest, a mini-me, I like to say. No,
Another
20
you,
me,
right?
another me. I am in the podcast booth with my twin sister, Martha Munizzi. Yeah!
Yay!
It is so cool to have you here. She's been here now for 24 hours, and we have talked ourselves almost to death.
Yes. And I still have a lot to say.
Oh my God,
We'll do this instead.
we can't stop talking. And so Steve said, "Good, keep talking. Go in the booth and record some podcasts."
Yep.
So this is what we do best.
I love it.
We talk.
Yeah.
We don't need microphones. Sometimes we wish we'd had a microphone.
I know.
Sometimes we're glad we did not have a microphone.
No, exactly.
But we were talking about podcasts in general and how long they are just a minute ago, getting ready for this, and how people will listen 3 and 4 hours of their life to podcasts, and that there's subjects that are never resolved.
Right.
They don't ever resolve the conflict.
And I think that's the frustration of the world we live in, is people want to just talk about the problem, but what are the solutions?
Exactly.
We don't want solutions. So hopefully we'll have a few solutions today.
That's why we got in this booth.
Yeah.
We have the answers.
All
All
of
of them. Ooh, high five. Twinning.
Yay!
No, we do, because first of all, we are 55.
Yeah,
we turned
I know.
55
Well,
this
you
year.
are.
You are too.
I know I am.
Sorry, but you
It
are
is what it
too.
is.
We're both 55.
Yeah.
And we love being in our 50s.
This has been the best decade ever.
The best.
Ever. The number is a little, takes my breath away a little bit, but the way that I feel, except for just a few aches and pains, let's be real.
Oh, God. A lot of eggs and pains that we didn't do anything to earn.
There's no just jumping out of bed in the morning. You have to stretch a little bit. But other than that, just what you feel that the world has taught you, experience has taught you. I said on Mother's Day, I was telling some people, I was like, if you have not raised teenagers, I'm sorry. I love you, but you ain't got nothing to tell me. I ain't listening to nothing.
True.
You don't have nothing to say.
You got nothing.
And maybe that's, a little strong, but at the same time, it's like, there's
it's
something, there's muscles that are developed. There's
100%.
There's empathy, there's truth, there's principles that you just can't get any other way. It doesn't mean you can't have a great life. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying there are just some things.
There's some things we understand.
Yes.
That they have yet to understand.
About
but they
human
will.
behavior.
Oh my gosh.
And what will work and what won't work.
Well, if you have raised 3 16-year-olds.
Yes.
Think of that.
3 13-year-olds.
Oh my God. 3 2-year-olds.
God.
I had 4 of them. I went
know
through
you
it
did.
4 times.
I know. And it's so funny when you meet people that have just had their first baby and they almost act like no one has ever had a baby ever. I am the first.
I know.
And then they share it, with the difficulties that they're going through. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's kind of how it is. And they look at you and like, it is?
I know.
I thought I was the only one. Like, no, baby.
Well,
and then here's what's coming next.
So it's funny you say that because, Stephanie has Gianna, her first. She's pregnant with her second. Chris and Rochelle are about to have Marino, their first little baby boy.
I know.
And so I get a text the other night. It was so cute. And she goes, Mom, I don't know what to do because I'm trying to sleep train her and she won't stay in her crib. She stays there for like 3 hours and she wakes up and she wants to be with me and Chris. And I said, okay, well, are you letting her cry? Yes. I said, well, how long have you let her cry? 30 minutes. I'm like, okay, well, first of all, I don't believe in sleep training. Our lifestyle does not, I don't think kids should run around the house at 11 o'clock at night.
No.
I think you have a family. That's a whole nother podcast. I'm not getting into that.
Right.
The point of it is, unless you're really ready to sleep train, you're going to have to let that baby cry for an hour.
That's right.
And it's going to hurt.
It is.
It's painful. But it's funny. She's thinking something's broke. I'm not doing it right. Like, we've all been there.
No, wouldn't it be great if you just had, everything that you thought would work just worked? It doesn't.
I know.
And I remember even like with my oldest daughter, she was like that. So I'm imagining with you and your children now that they're calling you saying, I can't get my kid to cooperate. There's almost a part of you that's like, good. Payback is beautiful. I want to help you, but I want you to sit in this for a minute.
I know.
This is what you did to me.
I know.
But it's really true. I mean, Danielle was the kind that, and she's going to kill me for talking about her, but too bad.
We're 55. We can say what we want.
That's how we started this whole conversation.
Amen.
we've paid and bought and we've earned and sacrificed for this moment of truth right here. And she wouldn't stay in her car seat. She wouldn't stay in her bed. Never. She wanted to be up and out. And I remember one time I put the lock on the other side of the door.
Oh.
And then I realized I've basically caged my child. But that's how desperate I was.
I know.
So it's the way of the world, but you just have to walk through. This is what's making you into the person that you're going to be when you're 55. It's these struggles, it's these difficulties, and then overcoming them and realizing that you can overcome them and that you can
That's right.
fight and win.
And that's the great part about being the age we're at as women, because women today, more than ever, young women, even women our age, are in need of answers.
That's right.
And we started this conversation by saying these podcasts that just roll on hour after hour with no resolution. It's like argument from every point of view. Okay, well, what's the answer?
Right.
And people are going to, the civilization, humanity is going to get tired of rolling the answer around.
Yeah.
It's like Stephanie wants to know, what should I do?
Yeah.
And
I want this to work.
What do I do, Mom? Am I doing this wrong? And so I call her and I said, hey, here's an answer. Try this.
Yeah.
And it brought peace to them because I learned it through doing it several times.
That's right.
Now, something that I think segues beautifully into this is your life and where you have spent your whole life. That is for the ministry, for the church. You've been a gospel award-winning artist. You've won Dubs, you've won Stellars, you've won a Grammy, I think.
Nominated for a Grammy.
Same thing.
But you can say it. No.
Same thing. You get nominated, that's a very big deal.
Yeah.
So you've been in the gospel music industry for years. You and Danny, your husband, built one of the top 5 independent labels of all gospel music. And you've won so many different awards and acknowledgments and accolades. And finally, after how many years now, you finally wrote a book?
Yes.
You finally wrote a book.
I know.
So talk about taking everything you've learned, and at this age, double grace age, 5 stands for grace.
Oh, I like it.
You wrote a book called Because of Who You Are. And I want to just set this up a little bit, because the book Because of Who You Are is one of the greatest songs. It's the title of one of the greatest songs you wrote. And the world sings Because of Who You Are. When I traveled on the road for about 9 years and they thought I was you, most of the time I would just go with it because it would work. Would sell CDs. But if I started to sing Because of Who You Are, I mean, the room would stop and everyone would sing. And it's one of those anthems that God gave you when you were the mom of little kids at home, vacuuming your house. You didn't have a maid. You didn't have any money.
Yeah.
You had little kids at home, and you were using the season you were in to call out to God and let him download songs.
Yeah.
Now, I know people go, well, she's a songwriter. She's got that gift. Yes, you do. You are a genuine, true blue, 100% born songwriter. There's no doubt. Other people try. You are a writer from birth. Our dad was a great writer.
Yeah, as are you. An amazing writer.
But I haven't written quite the hits that you have. But when you think about entitling this book Because of Who You Are, you wrote this song to God, but the book is based on all of your songs.
Yeah.
And you've written chapters based on all of your songs. And what I love about that is every song has a story.
Yeah.
And has a life, like every person has a story.
Right.
And you've gotten letters, I've gotten letters from people that say, that song saved my life.
Yes.
I was
absolutely.
suicidal. We got a letter from a person that was a twin, remember?
Yeah.
And one had severe cerebral palsy and was basically a shut-in. You remember that letter? It was years ago.
I think so.
And they wrote it and said how much it meant to them because they were identical twins, but one twin was normal and she wasn't. And she basically lived in her room and couldn't get out. And the song Always Welcome that we recorded and wrote together let her know she was always welcome. Every song has a story.
Yeah, that's true.
And they're powerful.
And no, I did not know that story. That would have been great to put in this book.
My bad.
Next book, volume 2.
But I want us to for those who are watching this, kind of see the graphic and see the book because it's gorgeous. It's red. You're on it in the cover. You look just like me.
I know.
And I don't know.
Uncanny.
The makeup artist did a great job making you look like me. And you look phenomenal.
Thank you.
And it just came out for Mother's Day. It's available now.
And this is a book that it's been in my heart. I hate to say how long, probably 15 years. We've had this idea. I think my husband, I'm giving him credit for coming up with it. And he's really pushed me over the years, like, don't forget that story and make sure you remember that story. And I just feel like stories are just so powerful.
Yeah.
They are. I mean, I love hearing people preach and I love, stats. I do like figures and statistics and I love debates. But when somebody just stops telling, the facts, the stats, and they just start telling a story.
Oh, it's everything.
It's like all of a sudden you just settle in and now you've got my attention.
Your brain is wired for stories.
Yes,
absolutely.
They really are. Like I can remember, I put myself in the description, what you're saying of a story as it's being told. I see myself, I learn something from it. Yeah. It challenges me. I might laugh. It gives me something to talk about, with somebody else.
Or when it's about a song, now I love this song more.
Right.
Because it has a story behind it.
But when I'm writing it, when it starts with an idea, it sounds so good in your head.
Right.
Then when you start writing it, you're like, okay, nobody is going to care. These songs, people love the songs. The actual opposite happens in your head.
You think people don't care about the story and how it was born?
You think as you're writing it, it's just not.
It's not conducive to the song.
Because I lived it. I don't see how. But I have taught when I've preached or taught a message. I've used stories, and I see how it impacts the crowd. But this is my very first book,
right?
And so people say, what was it like writing a book? It was horrible.
Yeah,
because I had to go through so many different phases of writing.
It's
First
so
of all,
funny.
I procrastinated.
Yeah.
So now I'm dealing with, you are so lazy, you're procrastinating, you don't finish. All the things in my head, and then it's like you have to kind of push and emerge like out of a cocoon past all of those old and those thoughts and feelings about yourself. It would be so easy just to stay in songwriting mode because I know I got that. I know I'm good at that.
Yeah.
People sit in the room and go, oh, what great idea do you have? And I can just write a verse and walk out. And it doesn't, this was such a challenge because I had to overcome so many limiting thoughts that I thought I had dealt with.
Oh, it just resurfaced them all.
It just comes back. And I'm not saying I won't have to face that again the more that I write, but I learned again, like we talked about raising children, raising toddlers, the more you do what's in your heart, you're stretching, you're growing, you're being challenged, your flesh is screaming.
Yeah.
Go back to what's easy.
Exactly.
Go back to what's comfortable.
And it's when, the story behind the music, this isn't like, what's her name? Sheryl Crow. Okay. She had a documentary telling the stories behind the music, right? And they were stories like, oh, we went in the studio and, I didn't have anybody that day. And then James showed up and he came in and we couldn't believe it. We started jamming and writing this song.
Like, who
and
cares?
It was so cool.
I love that.
But it's interesting and we all watch it.
Yeah.
But there's nothing that is soul stirring.
Right.
Whereas the book, this particular book, the story behind my music it's where you were, who you were.
And there's a story in there that I never tell. I never tell the story about when I had spinal meningitis as a baby.
People don't know it.
People don't know it. And I shared it. Y'all, this is so crazy. This is not the book, but I shared it and at our church, right? Like probably about a month before this came out. And I just felt led one day, it wasn't even in my notes to share. I said, I just feel like I need to share this story. And I shared it and about having spinal meningitis as a 1-year-old. And God just gave me, my mom was in the audience. And God just helped me tell the story, and it was just anointed when it was like powerful, like it was so empowering, and it inspired. I was inspired by it, like wow, usually you just say, oh yeah, when I was a baby, I had this disease, and they prayed and I healed. But to tell it with detail, and in the audience, in our church that day was a lady that I had met just in a store a few days before and invited her to church, and she was a neuro surgeon.
Wow, on children, right?
On children.
Yes.
And she said, you don't understand. That doesn't happen. Like, you don't get healed from that.
Wow.
And one of her best friends had a baby who had it and is not just paralyzed, but has more handicapped issues and more had severe consequences from it. And she said, it is absolutely 100% a miracle. So all these years I've never shared. I know I've never shared the story, and the day I tell it, there is a neurosurgeon sitting there
confirming, even more so. That happened to Steve when he released the book too, on 42 about the heart attack, and that's why it's so important for you to write your book because when it was all said and done, now you see why there's such a battle for it.
Yes,
because it was a battle for you.
Yeah.
from the beginning. And that's why this book had to be written.
And it's always, you
Whether you know her songs or not.
Right.
It's going to make you want to go listen to them.
Well, there's a story in there of our Nana, our grandmother, with an angelic visitation.
Yes.
You know, I mean, you're talking about 70, 50, 60 years ago.
Right.
You know, and before technology, before AI, before all this crazy stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Before filters.
Before filters.
Exactly.
Just there's a lot in here that I think people are going to be encouraged by.
Well, they got to get it. It's incredible. It's very easy to read. I like that all my family members are writing books that are so easy to read because, I mean, it will bless you.
Yeah.
You could use it as a journal if you wanted to because it's just such a blessing.
Well, there is a corresponding companion study guide coming out with it too.
That's right. Somebody just recently, a young girl asked me about needing a journal. This will be not a journal, but a Bible study.
Yeah, because
this is awesome.
There's not only is it just stories, but it's stories that even from Scripture. There are scriptures in there. There are even messages, little mini messages of encouragement that'll get you through your days, like a devotional.
You talk about gratitude that way.
Yeah.
How important it is to keep a grateful spirit.
Yes.
It keeps you back on track.
Yeah.
You know, what I think is so timely is that you waited to write a book and you thought you were being disobedient, you were being lazy, but the truth is it could not have come out at a better time.
That's right.
Because we are fighting such a culture war. It's not a battle. It's an absolute onslaught and a war for women these days.
Yes.
So to have a beautiful cover with a gorgeous woman that's not a dancer, JLo, but you represent women in such a beautiful way, in the way the world kind of wants us to.
Right.
You know, we were just talking about how we thought it was creepy that Martha Stewart was on the cover of, was it Vogue recently this week?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. And how creepy that was because there's no filters on this picture of you. This is what you look like. Maybe a light glow, little glow.
No.
But that's you. That's you 100% with hair, and the most you have on is extensions and eyelashes. Thank God for extensions and eyelashes. But I and there's no shame in that.
No.
Because we want to look beautiful. We're not trying to look like the secular world, but keep up with the world.
Yeah, we're just trying to make our lives a little easier as you get
so
older
much,
with your hair thins.
God, extensions are so much easier.
I know.
Eyelashes are just, it's cheaper than Botox.
I know.
But I would say the timeliness of it from the perspective of this world, let's talk about America, but the world in general needs good role models. Moms who aren't aging out at 55 or getting sick. Women fight cancer every day.
Yeah.
We have young women in our church whose mothers in their 50s and they were sick and they passed away and they need motherly influences. But Steve keeps saying something to me. He keeps asking, and he's asking it in a room full of women. When are women going to get tired of what's happening and the attack against women with this whole transgender thing?
Yeah.
When are you going to? And so I asked him the other day, well, what do you want us to? What are you thinking we should say? Because among ourselves, we speak out.
Sure.
How much do we need to be vocal?
Right.
And we were talking about that this morning over coffee. What do we say? When do we say it? How loud do we say it?
Yeah.
I can tell you, I'm going to go on record and say companies that are promoting this lifestyle and making it easy for people to walk into it, I will not buy another thing from them.
Right.
I am making a personal decision to say I won't fund a company that thinks this is okay, and you're not hiding it in the back of the store. You're putting it right next to the toy department.
Right.
And
that's right.
That's real. That we are not hyperbole. We're not extreme.
No, we are fighting for our children.
We are fighting for our kids.
Yeah. Here's my thought too, because I'm still, I don't want to say I'm figuring it out, because I do believe we should speak out. I don't think that we should hold our voices. I don't think we should be intimidated. We should not be in fear. We can't shrink back.
Right.
But we also have to understand that the more our social media, there's a way to get that message out, I believe, that has the most power, that has the most impact. And there's several ways to do it. For me, I think there's something so powerful about showing strong families.
Yeah.
Just this podcast, your family, your church, your ministry, your children having children. Make that the thing that people say, I want that. When you listen to the stories of these young men, when they were little kids and their moms were working, most of them had single moms, or they didn't have a dad that was home. And they say, I watched Madonna in the late 80s. I saw her and I identified with her.
Right.
Or I saw a model walk across the stage and I identified with her. And that identification is what changed them. And then they didn't have anybody to steer them and help them understand it. So they just felt good about wearing a dress, and they felt good about wearing makeup, and that because they identified with that. The power of identification is bigger than we think. And I'm not, I just for the sake of this podcast, of course, as you're writing and making your comments, I'm not simplifying it at all. It is a way deeper than that, but that's where it starts.
Right.
It starts with the eye gate. I saw something, I identified with it, I had to have it. I wanted to be that. That is what people tell all the time, the stories they tell. I saw my father working hard and I want to be like my dad. I saw my mother, I want to be like my mother. That power of identification is what God gave us.
Exactly.
So that's where it has to start, making sure that our children understand who they need to identify with.
That's right.
And the stronger the families are, the better, because it builds like this wall of fortification that you can't get through. I mean, we see through the 80s and 90s, because we lived it, we saw that sexual, that kind of liberation that was happening through pop music.
Yes.
It's nothing now.
No.
It's
innocent.
Almost innocent now when you see Madonna rolling around the floor.
The other day I was listening and she was like, Papa, don't preach.
Oh.
Okay.
I'm keeping my baby.
I'm keeping my baby. That was a Madonna song.
That would be a pro-life song
I
now.
know. Exactly.
You know, but now we're in a generation of young women that are actually celebrating terminating their babies, and they're fighting for the ability to have that choice. And then they even use language like forced birth. It's like, well, that baby's coming out.
I know.
I don't know what you think. And the other side of it is, if we're gonna, I think we should jump to this part too. I think I'm of the belief system that God can redeem and save any situation.
Absolutely.
And if we're not careful, we can empathize with people who are literally playing God.
Yes.
Do you want to be God in that situation?
Right.
Well, a baby's just a clump of cells. Okay. Well, if there's any truth in that, you get to make the decision on whether that clump of cells become a baby or does not. Do you want to be the one that cuts that lineage off?
I know it.
Are you the one that's going to stand and say, I, as a young teenager, made that decision on my own? That's why we need strong mothers and fathers that are leading people in the right way, because you'll make a decision that you'll never overcome.
No, and you know, Martha, the thing about Christianity.
Don't get me started. Don't get me started.
Oh, no.
This needs to be a 4-hour podcast.
We might break and come back. But this whole subject of even Christian women that have had abortions, and I want to go here for a minute, because we didn't say we were going to talk about abortion, but we are. Okay?
I think we should.
Okay, so I know women in my church for years, many that have had abortions, okay?
Right.
They didn't know better.
Yeah.
At the time, it was their only option. It was their only option in their minds.
Right.
I know there's been young women whose moms have said, don't come home unless you get an abortion. Right. Women that have said, I can't be yoked to this person.
Yeah.
I wasn't raped, but this was a date gone wrong, and now I'm pregnant. I cannot be yoked to this person. Right. I so understand that. Yeah. I feel their pain. That's such a difficult situation. And then to just say, well, there's other options. There's adoption, there's this, there's that. In the moment, that sounds so cruel. Yeah. But what they don't realize at the young age is, and when you don't have a mother or father to help you or the right advocates to go, it's 9 months of your life compared to the rest of your life. Yes. Wondering, worrying, thinking. They don't understand that the rest of their life, they're going to be contemplating the decision they made in 9 months. Yeah. Not even in 2 months, under pressure, walking into a Planned Parenthood that puts you under pressure. I don't care what anybody says. Oh, yeah. People that want to defend Planned Parenthood, you go ahead, knock yourself out. There's maybe parts to them that are good for women, and they have helped women that don't have insurances. But the abortion side, let's talk about the abortion side. They are who they are. The proof is out. Yeah. Don't argue with me about it. It's a fact. Right. They push you to have your abortions. The sooner you have your abortion, the better it is. If you wait, we can't get you in, the price goes up, which I understand. Now we have the abortion pill. Things are changing. It makes it easier for women to have their abortions all by themselves at home. If they think they're pregnant, they take this pill. They can make a call, get it right over the counter. Right. The truth of the matter is, no matter how easy you make that, it is still a decision that girl has to make. Yes. She needs to know what all her options are. That's all. Yeah. That's what I fight for. You need to know what your options are, but even the options are gaslit. Yes. And that's demonized. Demonized. That's the problem I have. So we take that same pattern, not only abortion,
Right.
But it is also in the LGBTQ community.
Yeah.
Where if you have any disagreement or you want to tell your 15-year-old, maybe you are identifying as somebody who's attracted to men or boys at school, but maybe there's other boys that are in the locker room. Your sexuality is just coming awake. Or maybe your girl identifies with being a tomboy. Yesterday, she was a tomboy. In our day,
right.
Today, she's gay.
She's being pushed
her friends are telling her, you like girls.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's, why can't she have options? Why are we the ones, and psychology and counselors at school, their hands are tied, and it's getting worse now with the trans community, that we can't give our children, have a conversation about even options?
Right.
Okay, this is a demonic agenda.
Yes,
I don't care what you say. We're hearing people that aren't Christians use that same term.
Exactly.
It's a demonic agenda.
And it's been brewing, and it's been planned, and it's been seeded over the decades. We didn't see it. Our mamas and daddies saw it.
Yeah, but it was hidden from us.
But we didn't see it. We thought, oh no, what is it that we kind of deflected and pushed away 20, 30, 40 years ago when our parents brought it up when we were younger, that actually was the seed that has grown the fruit that we're seeing now.
Yeah.
Because our parents felt, okay, that ain't right. That it goes back to when you're this stage of your life, you see so much, you feel it, you sense it because of what you've walked through, what you see, how a seed germinates, and then it becomes a full-grown plant or fruit, whether you can eat it or not, whether there's thorns on it, where there's fruit on it. And you see that in life, but you see that in situations and people's decisions. You see. So the people that are our age and older, and even younger, but really our age and older, are sounding the alarm.
Right.
But now we sound like the old folks that just, they don't get it. Oh, they don't get it. And I think it goes back to the principle of listening to the people that have been there, done it. To me,
gone the way.
That's what's under attack too.
I know.
It's that idea of, if someone's speaking any kind of authoritative truth that's anti-culture, they have to be completely dismissed. They're dismissed. Right. And then it's all about my worth, what I need, what's right for me. That's the root of a lot of this that I see. Because I hear what you're saying, and I completely agree. We've got to have empathy for people that don't know. This culture has told them things that
they've been lied to.
They've been lied to. They're repeating statistics,
that aren't true,
aren't true, and they're deciding whether to get married or not based on a false statistic that had its roots in something that was a total deception to distort the culture.
And even protecting abortion rights along certain party lines, because everybody comes with their political persuasions. They're protecting abortion, and they're voting for the right of a woman to choose.
Yeah. Then let her choose.
Absolutely.
Let her decide.
What other decision does she have to make? Okay, so all I care about, I'm against abortion. I've heard Christians say this. I'm against abortion, but I'm not against a woman's right to choose. Okay, so you can't be both.
Yeah.
You're for abortion.
Right.
And I'm sorry, I know that might get some feedback, but it's the truth, whether you're for it or not. Stand up and say, I think a woman has the right to end her pregnancy if she wants to. Okay, at least that's honest.
Everybody that feels that way should have to watch an abortion be a procedure.
I agree.
You should have to watch. You should watch it.
I agree. And the thing is, when you are,
because they'd change their minds if they saw it happening.
Most people do.
Yeah.
Well, that's why abortion has changed, even in the standards and the values of America. Why Roe v. Wade got overturned, because there were so many people on the streets saying, do you really think you're for that? But here's the thing. It's not a judgment for anybody that's got an abortion, because quite frankly, in our society, as many women, I don't know the statistics exactly, but I do know a lot of women, Christian women who might not even feel that guilty about it, got abortions.
Yeah.
And none of us are here to clobber them over the head and say, how could you, it's murder. I don't even like to use that term, abortion's murder. I just don't. I think in our position as pastors, we've got to be empathetic and considering of people that are still processing all of that. And when you do something that at the time you thought was the best thing for you, how do you flip that script and say, oh, I murdered my baby? I think you just have to be filled with grace like Jesus is.
Yes.
You didn't know. Jesus said, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So it's not about saying, oh, it's okay. You didn't know.
No. And
so
if they feel,
it's all right that you didn't know.
No, and if they're already feeling shame over that.
That's right.
And then we add more shame on top of that.
Doesn't help anybody.
The truth sometimes sounds like razor blades.
I know.
Feels like razor blades. but it's the truth that sets you free.
Yeah.
That's why, going back to what we were saying, when Steve was saying, when are we going to step up? When are women?
Yes.
We're still formulating the right way, because this world will take a soundbite and it'll sound like anything they want it to sound like. They can create a narrative based on something that you say in an atmosphere that you've said it. And basically you're put on a shelf. You're marginalized because of the way you said it. So we have to go back to being wise as serpents, harmless as doves. We're in the wise, we're gaining wisdom.
Right.
How do we say it? When do we say it? Now, there are people that are bulldozers that just say it. Praise God. Good for you. I'm grateful. I love the people that say it. But where I'm at, you and I both, we're in the one-on-ones, the children, the young people that go to our church, and our youth. Right. Are we teaching them? Are we working with the people who are actually at risk for these things? Are we just getting up and just sounding the alarm, and we've never had a conversation with a young teenager? Right. We've never really talked to someone in the LGBT community. We've never had an encounter with someone to hear their heart. And again, I'm not saying that we empathize to the place where we don't speak truth, right? But yet that's the wise and harmless part. Yeah. That we understand what we're talking about, who we're talking to, and that we don't do more damage and are trying to fix the problem.
And I would add to that, because if you talk about abortion, if you talk about transgenderism, which we know, I don't understand why now all of a sudden all these people want to be binary, they want to be gender fluid, they don't want to be what they are. And it's not associated with mental illness. I don't understand how people cannot connect. Okay, you don't want to say mentally ill. How about emotionally unstable? Right. They're longing for something, and it's not who they are, it's who somebody else is. Yeah. I'm not good in this skin. Yeah. I've got to be in somebody else's skin. And I heard a general of the naval something in Canada. I'm horrible with terms. But anyway, there was an amazing speech that he gave before Congress. And he made this statement. He said, when we in the military stops using terms like this is stupid and this is dangerous, we are on a collision course to complete catastrophe. And he talks about this, one of the worst aviation crashes that had ever happened, and like 500 people were killed because there was fog that day. It was in Brazil. And the pilots were getting their cues from the tower, and no one said the two terms that they know to say. It's in their training, Martha. It's in their training. And the reason why is because it wakes your brain up. Hey, this is stupid. Or this is dangerous. Yeah. Like legitimately they use those terms to help wake people up that are in the foxhole, that aren't paying attention, that are making life and death decisions for other people. Right. So he said, when we stop saying that as a civilization, and nothing's dangerous. Yeah, and nothing's stupid. And nothing's foolish. Yeah. Well, it's to each her own, and we're on a collision course. Yeah. And I was so struck by that, because I thought what that basically says is you can't say what you think anymore. Right. I can't say, well, that's stupid. Why do you think that? Right. Or, but that's dangerous. Yeah. We are silenced. Yes. And having to relearn how to speak to our children from a perspective that puts our kids not in line with us and in alignment, but almost superior to us. Right. That we're now going to create something in this child, their poor little fragile brains, and we as parents. Yeah. We were reading a story yesterday about what's happening in Norway. I know. It's unbelievable. They're taking kids from their parents. Yes. And now they're coming in saying, you can't do this, because one of the leading child experts in Norway, they found out that he had untold numbers of child pornography. Yes. Then they had the audacity to say that just because he watched pornography doesn't mean he's a pedophile. Right. Are you? I know. Yes, it does. Yeah. Yeah. He's watching what he's prone to. Yeah. Why then? What are you watching it for? But that's where it's all headed, to where there's no outrage. There's no. You can't say this is stupid or dangerous. And because who am I to judge? And we've got to leave room for people that haven't actually acted out on that. That's right. But they're feeding on it all the time. Well, what do you think is going to be the next step? And again, it's just interesting how you see that same cycle through. It never changes. Generations. But now honestly, I'm grateful for it's the stage of my life to be in this generation now, because our parents preached about something that they didn't really see. Right. They preached to something that was something futuristic. And we thought they were crazy. We thought, y'all are being crazy. I mean, we're living in that. We're living it. Yeah. And I think that's why we have to be
more aware, more savvy in a lot of ways when we do speak with our wits about us, with knowledge, with understanding. This book took me a long time. It's like you said, and it's true. It's the timing of it. Had I done this earlier, it wouldn't have had the impact.
Yeah.
I believe there's more season. It's like anything else.
The seasoning.
The longer you take to cook something, the better it tastes. And just the waiting on the timing of God, what seems like I missed a moment. Well, if I was supposed to do it, I would have done it.
Right. But it's perfect for the season we're in.
It is.
Yeah.
Because stories really do impact people's lives. And again, they see themselves. And that's what I want to keep telling. I mean, after I wrote this book, I was just having a conversation with a friend of mine, and I started telling her another story, and I'm like, did I put that in the book? I need to put that in the book. I mean, there's still so many things that I feel like will help people. And it's the simple principles. What is it, that saying that says big doors swing on little hinges?
Yeah.
That some of these simple principles, if you apply them to your life, will affect you in a small decision or a life-changing decision.
Yes.
When you're face-to-face with abortion, when you're face-to-face with your identity. If you know the basic principles of life, like what you said earlier, basically knowing who you are, being okay with who you are, knowing there's choices, being okay. It's okay to listen to your parents.
Right.
It's okay to listen to people in authority. They're not
It's okay
against
to
you.
listen to both sides of the argument.
Yeah.
You're smart enough to sit and listen to both sides,
Right.
and then let's talk about the future. Now, in my family, there's only one argument. There's only one way. That's it. You can listen all you want, but this is how we go.
How we coming back to this?
Well, we've gone over a little bit in this podcast.
We did. I had a feeling we did.
I'm glad we did. I know over a little bit, but it's okay because we'll most likely find our way back into this room
because we're just getting warmed up.
We really just got our words together. We got a whole lot more to say.
My coffee just kicked in. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. I know I have. It's great to talk to you. It always is. So do us a favor. Let everybody know the twins were on. And I was going to say retweet. This shows you I don't understand all the language. Share, post, retweet. MySpace. Put it on MySpace.
No. Delete that.
No. I don't even care anymore. Just share with everybody this podcast because we know it's going to be a blessing. There's nothing like conversations that don't just talk in circles.
Right.
We're bringing you resolve.
Yeah.
Because what we basically said in this room today is there are people that are down the line from you that can help you make decisions in your youth. Don't just listen to the world. Don't just listen to the secular media. Don't just listen to Hollywood. For God's sake, please turn off the Hollywood microphone and trust us.
Yeah.
You don't want to live with regret later on in your life.
That's right.
I'll close with this quick story. I was watching a show recently called The Jewish Matchmaker, which is so good. And
I'm going to watch that.
There's a 44-year-old girl who basically, she was cute, but she's 44. She ain't no girl anymore. But her house was loaded with pink, mermaids, all these stuffed animals. And she's beautiful, and she's wondering why she can't get married. Well, she said it. I didn't want to. I wanted to live my life the way I wanted.
Yeah.
And so in being indulgent to live her way in her 20s and 30s, now she sits at 44 weeping, saying, matchmaker, matchmaker, make me a match. Find me a find, catch me a catch. Night after night, whatever.
And make me a perfect match.
And it's costing her thousands of dollars. If she had just listened, the longing she has today is most likely already past. Wow. And she had to hear that.
That's painful.
She had to hear that because she wanted to live indulgently when she was young. And here she is. We could have told you, sister. We could have told you.
Mary.
And that's where we
don't hate you because we're telling you something you don't like to hear. I know you don't like to hear it, but nobody hates you. Just listen.
Yeah, please listen.
Sit in with the truth. Just sit in with it. Sit with it.
And just process it. Just listen to it.
Don't hate me because I'm saying something that you don't want to hear. Just listen.
And please.
Maybe there's truth in what could be that there's truth in what we're saying.
Absolutely.
But you have choices.
And now you're not sitting back going, man, I wish I would have listened.
I don't want to live. I can't live like that. I just can't do it.
No. So there you go. A few more minutes. We just had to go a little bit longer. Share this podcast. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey there, if you enjoyed this episode of the Family Business Podcast with the Alessis, then you'll want to know we've got more insight, more encouragement, more great conversations that we can have on Sundays, and even some surprises coming your way. So you want to make sure you subscribe to our channel and watch one of these next videos here next, because remember, family is everybody's business.